Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome, everybody, to the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeff Malinup, and with me is my friend, my ally, my co-host, my Anakin to my Obi-Wan, Marc Souza. Hello, my friend.
Whoa, I'm Obi-Wan.
Why?
Because I'm older, wiser.
But I'm the star. I'm the host of the. I'm the guy who opens the show.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want, but I'm Obi-Wan.
So you tear off.
Yeah.
Anyways, way to ruin my segue. But anyways, welcome everybody. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to start off with the Thursday night football matchup between the Cardinals and the Broncos. We'll also talk about other things in the NFL, such as the NFL owners' meetings have had talk about the worriness they have for the Los Angeles Chargers and their fan base and how viable they are in Los Angeles. We'll also talk about Brock Osweiler being a new starting quarterback for the Dolphins this week.
Did you say Broctagon?
I did say Broctagon. We'll also talk about some other new starting quarterbacks for this week. But right now, let's get right into Thursday night football between the Arizona Cardinals and the Denver Broncos in Arizona. We got some pretty not so good teams when it comes statistically.
But they're pretty?
Pretty not so good.
Oh.
Like, pretty not.
I didn't know there was a comma. I'm sorry.
You how can I put a comma? Never mind.
I didn't hear a comma. Sometimes things get lost.
Okay, comma. I won't do that again. We'll see what we
My
can
mistake.
do, period. Okay, anyways, moving on. We're talking about Thursday night football. The Cardinals statistically are last in total offense yards per game wise.
Not good.
Yeah, and they're also 24th in total defense when it comes to yards allowed per game.
Slightly better.
I think it's their secondary that really helps that. Their front seven needs a lot of work. They're 1-5 for a reason.
They are definitely 1-5 for a reason.
The Denver Broncos are actually surprising to be 12th in total offense in yards per game, and worse defense than the Cardinals at 27th in total defense when it comes to yards per game. I think the advantage goes to Denver because just of 12th total offense compared to last in total offense, so 32-12. I will take the 12.
Yeah, the Cardinals, though, they have been opportunistic with turnovers. They will be without Trey Boston tonight, which is definitely detrimental to that defense, as him and Budda Baker, those two safeties for the Cardinals, are ball hawkers. They make plays, but they will be without Trey Boston, so that could definitely boost Denver. Case Keenum, you talked about it before. Sometimes he can get a little loose with the football, so it will be interesting to see what Denver's game plan is coming in. I mean, we talked about the secondary for the Cardinals. You can't forget Patrick Peterson. So we'll see Patrick Peterson.
I'm kidding. I love Patrick Peterson.
We'll see Patrick Peterson, who has been involved in trade rumors tonight. But I'm not sure.
I don't think he's going to get traded. I think they would want something a lot for him, and I don't think someone's willing to give that up because he's kind of at the end of his career when you think about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what will happen with that defense. If the Broncos don't turn the ball over, I think they have a really good chance to win this game because, like we said, the Cardinals flourish off of turnovers. They give up a ton of yards.
They have to. There's nothing else they can do.
And their offense doesn't help them. Their offense puts their defense on the field a lot. So
they're last. You got to think about it. 32 teams, and you're dead last in offense.
That's not very good. They have the worst rushing offense in the NFL, but they play against the worst rushing defense in the NFL. Denver is the worst rushing defense.
Okay, well, hear me out right now.
Let's hear it.
If you are Arizona and your number one rusher is David Johnson, who should be a stellar running back. He only has 92 carries, which is a lot of carries, for 297 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's just a little over 3 yards a carry, 3.2 yards a carry to be exact.
Mm-hmm.
So
what are you asking me?
I'm asking you, is he a guy you can count on to do those rushes, or is he losing what
he
had?
Can be counted on, I think. I think it's the people around him that can't be counted on. I don't think his offensive line is creating a whole lot of movement.
You think it's his offensive line that's the problem, not him?
I would say that his offensive line is a problem. I don't know if it's the biggest problem, because also another problem is they have a rookie quarterback. They also have an aging wide receiver in Larry Fitzgerald, who hasn't been able to get a lot of separation. So that passing offense is very anemic.
This team is obviously on a rebuilding period. Their leading receiver is not even Fitzpatrick anymore. It's Fitzpatrick.
Kirk, yeah.
Fitzgerald. I said Fitzpatrick.
Fitzgerald, you figured it out.
Yeah, anyways, it's Christian Kirk, who's their leading receiver, 25 receptions, 311 yards. A
rookie of all things.
And 1 touchdown. Maybe it's that rookie-to-rookie chemistry. But the Cardinals are also averaging 13.7 points per game. Yards per game. That would be terrible. Points per game, 13.7. And points allowed is 23.2.
Yeah, those are not good numbers. That's these
an
teams,
understatement, dude. They're losing by 10 points per game average.
Both these teams, when you break it down offensively and defensively, you can understand why they are where they are, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Like, the numbers actually do tell the story in this regard.
Like, that win against the 49ers, they're facing a completely injured-riddled team.
And the Niners committed 5 turnovers that game, and if they commit 3 or 4, the Niners win that game.
Yeah, exactly. So this team could easily be 0-6 right now.
Sure, they definitely could. Although, they played Minnesota pretty good the last game, 27-17. Like, it wasn't the worst.
Close is only based on hand grenades and...
horseshoes.
Horseshoes, that's right. Hand grenades is the main one, because that could kill you.
Cornhole, too. You could be close in cornhole, you get points.
Okay, granted. So,
you get it
so
on
the new
thing.
saying is now horseshoes, hand grenades, and cornhole.
Well, I think actually it's just hand grenades and cornhole, because nobody plays horseshoes anymore.
I played
When's
horseshoes.
the last time you played horseshoes?
Last year. No. Yeah, last year.
Where was that?
At the lake with my family.
Okay, and the time before that?
The year before that.
So it's a yearly thing that you play horseshoes?
Yeah.
So how often do you play cornhole?
A couple times a year. When I'm tailgating or something with my folks, it's a couple
So
times.
you play cornhole more?
Well, yeah, that's easier to play. Because you have to find a stake and stake it to the ground and then try to
soft
throw
ground,
it.
right?
Yeah. And with cornhole, it's just 2 little sets you just put on anywhere you want.
So we should say, what is the quote now?
It should not be cornhole and hand grenades.
Yeah.
Horseshoes and hand grenades
Close
sounds better.
only. What is it saying? Close only counts in cornhole
and hand grenades.
Yeah, there we go. Boom. All right.
Anyways, moving on. We really got off topic there. Anyways,
we're
moving
just teaching
on.
people things.
Whatever. Let's teach them about football. The leader, and then comparing Christian Kirk, who has 311 yards and 25 receptions, to the leading receiver for the Denver Broncos in Emmanuel Sanders, he has 40 receptions, 501 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's been their go-to receiver. We've also seen Demaryius Thomas take a little bit of a back seat to the rookie Cortland Sutton. Maybe we'll see Demaryius get more snaps, but over the last couple games, he's actually been out-snapped by the rookie Cortland Sutton. So I'm not sure what. I know Demaryius is getting a little bit up there in age, but he was even a good receiver up until last year. I think this game we're going to see two receivers that maybe just past their prime. Demaryius Thomas, of course, but how about Larry Fitzgerald? It just seems like he's not creating the separation as he has in the past. He's never been a burner, but he's always been a receiver that's been, some speed, some quickness, and great route running ability. But it just looks like with the rookie quarterback, he's not creating enough separation to have that young quarterback trust his eyes and throw the ball to him,
Well, the thing is, he's definitely have lost some of his
athletic ability.
Yeah, absolutely. And he is struggling throughout his last couple of seasons, and this might be his last one, who knows. But the bottom line is, do you still trust him in the offense?
No.
Really?
It's hard. It's,
He's
It's tough to say, but that offense is just not very good. And yes, they will improve, but I mean, Larry Fitzgerald has not had one single game this year over 40 receiving yards. He's getting thrown the ball 5, 6, 7, sometimes 8 times a game. There's got to be more. Like, you got to have 60, 70 receiving yards if you're getting 6, 7 throws your way, The volume totally is there, but the production is just sorely lacking.
Oh yeah, the production. He's definitely struggling production wise, and it shows because I think I think this should be his last year. I think future Hall of Famer. We have no question. This team's not going to win any Super Bowls. He has nothing really to prove anymore. He's just missing that Super Bowl ring, which I think if he wants that, he got to go to a different team.
Yeah, definitely. He's not going to win a Super Bowl with Arizona. Yeah, at this point, I don't know if I see him moving on. I mean, I know that people can say, like, oh, it's a quarterback or it's his hamstring injury that he's been dealing with all season. But for me, when I watch him, I don't know if it's a health thing. I just think that it's tougher for him to get separation this year than it has been before. He doesn't have Carson Palmer anymore. He doesn't have a quarterback who's an experienced veteran.
Well, Carson Palmer was also at the end of his career, but he was still getting the ball to him. He was still... The thing is, Carson Palmer can throw the ball deep. Josh Rosen's more of a West Coast quarterback who can only throw it short, quick passes and then it's the receiver's job to get those 10 yards, basically.
Right. So tonight he faces Chris Harris Jr., which is probably the best cover corner. No, not probably. He is the best cover corner on the Denver Broncos. So it'll be another game for Larry Fitzgerald where his numbers probably will not look very good. He probably will have another game under 40 yards receiving. It'll be tough for the Arizona offense to navigate today. They will have to go to Christian Kirk. They'll have to use other weapons, in my opinion, than David Johnson or Larry Fitzgerald. They'll have to use David Johnson. In fact, I think that David Johnson has a chance to have a really big game today. As we talked about, the Denver Broncos, they are the worst rushing defense in the NFL. What do you make of that?
I think that is a huge chance to really David Johnson to break out, but it's up to his offensive line to really give him that room. Like we were talking about before, if he had a better offensive line, he might be doing better. But on the contrary, he's not doing himself any favors.
I mean, he's running hard. I think when you watch the game tonight, the Cardinals don't play too many games on primetime television. They don't play too many key notable games. But tonight's a good chance to take a look at a team that you don't get to see too often. And I think what you'll find is that David Johnson will be running really hard. He'll be breaking tackles. But the fact is that when you have to avoid the first tackler behind the line of scrimmage, it kind of ruins the play. Like, depending on whatever the play is.
You can't start off hot if you're already scrambling.
Football, especially offense, is all about timing. Passing, the timing has to be there. In running, a lot of people don't realize, a lot of casual sports fans don't realize that the running game is all about timing. The blocks happen at a certain time, and if a running back gets thrown off his timing, what was open, a tenth of a second ago is now a hole that was closed, and what could have been a 15-yard gain is a 1-yard gain or a 2-yard gain. So
tell that to Trent Richardson.
Well, Trent Richardson was a bust on his own. David Johnson.
Well, he missed those wide holes. Is what? Okay, granted,
yeah.
David Johnson is
he's actually a good player,
but I just feel like he's on a team that just he can't do much with because like you said, the line has to give him some room to.
They don't respect the pass. The defenses do not respect the pass. No, absolutely.
You're facing a rookie quarterback who doesn't really throw the ball deep or can't really throw the ball deep, doesn't have really accuracy down the field. He throws those short passes, and those short passes are sometimes not the most accurate. He's still in a process of getting better.
I'm putting 8 guys in the box every time, and I'm saying, Josh Rosen, go ahead and beat me over the top. That's exactly what I'm saying. So, just like you're alluding to, no, I would not respect the pass until the Cardinals show me that they can throw the football. Now, we know that the run game has not been there, but we know as fans, as
92
people...
92 carries for 297 yards really speaks for itself.
But we know as football fans that the run and the pass need to complement each other. Like, the run game will get shut down if the pass game doesn't put any fear into the opposition. If you allow those safeties to get up to the line of scrimmage, and on top of that, your guards and tackles are not very good at run blocking, you will find your running game having struggles. they will be stuck in the mud. You will be going backwards or gaining 1 or 2 yards of carry, and that means that you end up throwing the ball on 2nd and 3rd and long. You will get off the field 3 and out. All these things snowball. You can't run, so it sets up 2nd and long. You have a quarterback that's not completing balls down the field.
Maybe that's why they're last.
It's easy. It's super easy to understand why this team is struggling, because the offense is putting the defense on the field for most of the game. The defense has been very good at creating turnovers, actually, which has been a positive for them. But yeah, they'll have to do that again tonight. So, what do you see tonight, Jeff? What is your prediction?
Well, I know you're high on David Johnson having a good game, or having to have a good game, but I see the Broncos taking this one.
Yeah.
I just think their offense is better. Philip Lindsay is their leading rusher. Granted, he's not doing that well with he's actually doing better than David Johnson with 61 carries, 346 yards, and 1 touchdown, averaging 5.6 yards a carry. That's good, but he might be able to do better with this, facing this defense. But you also have to think about Case Keenum. Is he going to go to Emmanuel Sanders more? Is he going to go to his other weapons more? We don't know. But the fact of the matter is, I'll go with the 12th total offense versus the last total offense. I'm going to go with the 12th offense.
And what do you think the score will be?
I know that sounds obvious and all that stuff, but I just think the Broncos are more of a complete team, they have more of an identity than the Cardinals do.
What do you think the score will be if Denver wins?
I'm thinking 17-14.
Okay. I got Arizona.
I'm changing that. 17-13. I'm not seeing them score 2 touchdowns. I see a touchdown and 2 field goals.
I got Arizona. I think this game will be sneaky good, just because I think a Thursday night game in October between 2 bad teams. I mean, like, sometimes you get 2 good teams, and then it's not really a great game because they're both really good. They kind of cancel each other out. But I think we'll see some big plays tonight.
You're saying bad teams play better in Thursday than
But I think that you'll see Denver's offense and Arizona's offense do better than they normally do tonight, because they're playing teams that they can move the ball against. So I think David Johnson has a big game. 175 total yards from scrimmage, 2 touchdowns. Watch, Jeff. You just watch.
That 27, is a lot of faith in him.
27-24. Arizona wins in the desert. They will be on their way to their 2nd win of the season behind the legs of David Johnson. I think that we'll see, a couple big plays in the passing game, but, man, I just see a David Johnson game. Denver has problems stopping the run. We know how good Von Miller and Bradley Chubb are, but that defense just cannot stop the run. You remember what Isaiah Crowell and Bilal Powell did to them?
219 yards total for Crowell really speaks for itself, granted.
And then 90 yards for Powell in that game. They had 300 rushing yards in that game. David Johnson's better than both those guys. Trust me on that.
Oh, I agree with you. I don't disagree with that statement.
Yeah. So, I think we should go to a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the 1-5 teams. Obviously, we just talked about Arizona, but we'll talk about the other ones. Is there one of these teams that has a chance at the playoffs, an outside shot? Or are they all done? We'll see. We'll talk about it when we come back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome, everyone, to the GSMC Football Podcast. We just finished talking about the Thursday Night Football matchup between the Arizona Cardinals and the Denver Broncos. Now we're going to go on to 1-5 teams and see if can they make the playoffs? Are they dead in the water? We'll find out. We're going to find out right now. So give me that list of 1-5 teams, my friend.
All right, so we just talked about them. Arizona Cardinals, San Francisco 49ers, New York Football Giants, Oakland Raiders, and the Indianapolis Colts. Those are the 5 teams sitting at 1-5, which is the worst record in football.
Well, to be honest, that record for each of those teams makes sense. Just on paper, they didn't seem like they were going to make the playoffs, any one of them. We all knew that John Gruden was going to a team that's in the middle of rebuilding. He made that worse by trading away Khalil Mack, and he's putting Amari Cooper on this trade block, and he's probably going to put Derek Carr. There's rumors he's putting him on the trade block also.
Mm-hmm.
So this team is definitely in a rebuilding period. The Cardinals are just... They just have too many young and old guys. I know that sounds weird, but they have a lot of young and a lot of too old players. They don't really have guys in their prime yet. But right now, looking at just all the teams right now, Indianapolis Colts, the Oakland Raiders, the Arizona Cardinals, San Francisco 49ers, and what was the last team? Did I miss anyone?
Niners.
Oh, the Giants.
Cardinals,
I missed the Giants.
Yes.
I honestly don't see any of these teams really. The only chance I see for one of these, I don't even see the Giants getting there because they're probably in the weakest division in the NFC East, and I don't see them really making an impact at all.
I think that the Niners are different than all these teams because they have excuses. They have too many injuries plus their franchise quarterback, whereas these other teams, I mean, the Cardinals are going through that transition with Rosen, so he's taking his lumps, but, you know, they have at least something to look forward to there. The Raiders... Who knows what's going on there? And the Colts have Andrew Luck back, but that team's just not very good.
No pun intended, but the Raiders are a black hole right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's all bad.
It's sucking up all the talent and just not giving anything back.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Raiders. So, I mean, we know that Gruden, has been successful before, but we didn't expect him to come in, and it sounds like he's just cleaning house. I mean, they already got rid of Khalil Mack, but Amari Cooper is apparently on the trade block for a number 1 pick. They're looking for a first-round pick.
I don't think they're going to get in my opinion. Do you think they're going to get one pick?
I don't think so. I think they can get a second-round pick. But
all due respect to Amari Cooper, I just don't see someone trading a first-round pick, which are, in these days,
Amari
so
Cooper,
viable.
beyond the inconsistent play that he's had, he is on a 1-year contract, so you would be renting Amari Cooper, and I don't think somebody's giving up a first-round pick for a rental on an inconsistent player.
Unless they know they can re-sign him. It's kind of like the Jimmy Butler deal.
Yeah, but even if they knew they could re-sign him, would they want to? Like, we don't even know if he's worth whatever contract he's going to get next.
Right, true. He has been struggling with the Raiders as of late.
So it's too much risk to give up a first round with all those factors considered.
Yeah, true. But overall, I will say the Raiders are in a long process.
Yeah, and they've benched a lot of young players. I mean, Garyon Connolly, their cornerback last year, benched, first-round pick. Carl Joseph 2 years ago. Apparently he's on the trading block. He's been benched.
Obviously, John Gruden wants his own team. This is not his team yet. He wants his own players. He picked out himself type of deal. Don't you think so?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, are we saying the Raiders are done? They're done?
Yeah, they're done.
Yeah, they're done. Okay, so let's stay on them for a minute. We'll do this team by team. Okay. We know that John Gruden is not getting fired anytime soon. He signed a 10-year, $100 million contract. So he could be terrible for 4 or 5 years. His job is safe. So with that being said, is their general manager, Reggie McKenzie, is he on the hot seat? There's got to be a fall guy if they go 3-13. I'm sorry. It's just, that's football. Somebody got to go.
I would put...
Somebody got to go. GM or quarterback or both.
I think they knew going into this season this was a rebuilding time and they weren't going to be
remember,
contending.
This general manager wasn't with Gruden. He was there before Gruden, and Gruden's not playing his players. So, Gruden has the power here. Usually the general manager is above the coach. No one is above Gruden in that organization except for the owner himself. You don't give a man $100 million and don't let him make decisions. So
maybe it's sabotaging the GM and making him get fired. Do you think that could actually be
I don't know.
it?
No, that's not. No.
No. I mean, would you be surprised?
I would be shocked. You think John Gruden left his cush gig at ESPN to come back and sabotage the Raiders?
No, not sabotage the Raiders. Sabotage so the general manager's gone and he has full control.
But he wants to be sabotage. He doesn't need to sabotage him if he wants him to leave. He'll just say, "Hey, Mark Davis, I want the GM fired. And Mark Davis is going to say, I gave you $100 million. I am going to go with what you want.
Well, the Raiders have always been a questionable organization, to say the least. So who knows what's going on up there? Like, even when Al Davis was there, we had no idea who they were going to draft or who they were going to trade for, who they were going to sign. Like, that team is so unpredictable that it's almost predictable, though they're being unpredictable.
So they're predictably unpredictable.
Exactly. That made sense.
All right.
So
they're done. Okay.
Yeah,
so let's move on. Colts 1-5. Let's talk about them.
Andrew Luck is doing his best. He's playing all he can, but you can only do so much with no talent around you.
Yeah, I mean,
let's be honest. Like, their first round pick, Nelson from Notre Dame, he got blocked so hard the last week. He got lifted off the ground.
Yeah, he's going through some growing pains, but like you said, T.Y. Hilton's their best player other than Andrew Luck on that offense, and he's been hurt. Marlon Mack has been hurt. Looks like he's their best running back. He's finally back. But
Quentin Nelson was supposed to be the guy that really helped the offensive line shape up. But the guy drafted after him on the linebacker side, on the lineman side for Notre Dame when he was there was the 49ers drafted him in the 9th overall. I'm blanking on his name right now. McGlinchey.
Mike McGlinchey.
He's right now the number one offensive lineman when it comes to rookie linemen. So right now, they're kind of getting jibbed right now. But honestly, Nelson was the main guy to pick. It was a smart pick, but right now he's struggling with this offensive line. And Andrew Luck's not getting any time to throw the ball. And he's throwing the ball like 50 times a game. And he's just coming off this almost career-ending shoulder injury. So who knows what's going on in this team where they're relying too much on right now, beaten up Andrew Luck.
Yeah. I thought... Some people were kind of high on the Colts coming into this year, but I always thought that they were the worst team in this division because, quite simply, you take a look around their division. Tennessee had just made the playoffs, so they have some good pieces there. Even though they've been inconsistent this year, they can win games. Now, you look at Jacksonville. We
can have a whole conversation about Marcus Mariota, too, if we wanted to.
You look at Jacksonville, great defense. I get it. They got gashed last week, but overall, they're maybe the best defense in the NFL. Now, their offense is inconsistent, but I think that we felt more confident about them being good than the Colts for sure. And then you have the Texans, who were really good last year with Deshaun until he got hurt. So I always knew it was going to be an uphill battle for the Colts. I think they're going to finish in the top 5 with a top 5 pick. So I'm not surprised. I am encouraged, though, to see Andrew Luck. He looks like he's getting back healthy. Is he the same quarterback? I'm not sure, but at least he's playing football at a good level, whereas we didn't even know if he was going to play. We didn't know if Andrew Luck was going to retire or not. So,
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, he's been gone for so long,
And he was really touted very highly when he came out of Stanford with the first overall pick by Indianapolis, and we all thought it was a great choice. I mean, you get Peyton Manning, you get Andrew Luck, you get two really back-to-back great players. But right now it's I would say it's a frustrating time because it's not his fault. He's doing everything he can to help the team win, but he just has no weapons around him for him to be able to compete against other teams. It's you can only do so much.
So what about so moving on? Do you think the Colts will have a top 5 pick when the season is over? When it's all said and done?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you think the Raiders will too, or no?
I'll say the Raiders get like the 4th or 3rd pick.
Okay, and so the Colts in the top 5, Raiders top 5. What about the New York Giants? Are they dead in the water at 1-5 in that division?
Considering how poor the NFC East is, I'm going to say there's hope, but not that much hope. Like, it's slim to none, but it's still slim.
I'll give you that because they do have weapons, so it's one of those things where if they can get some consistent offensive line, pass blocking, and Eli can make throws that he has made in the past, that's why there is a glimmer of hope, because you do have those weapons. You have Odell, you have Barkley, you have Evan Ingram, Sterling Shepard. I mean, honestly, that's like a fantasy football team right there. Like, those are very good athletes. Those are very good players. But as we know, football is a game that's played in the trenches. If your offensive and defensive lines get dominated, it's really hard to win in this league. The Giants consistently get dominated at the line of scrimmage. And we see that. We see that reflected in their standing. They're 1-5. So, Jeff, you think that they have a glimmer of hope. But at season's end, are they a team that'll be drafting in the top 5?
I'm going to say no. I'm saying they're going to probably steal a couple of games because Saquon Barkley's playing extremely well right now. They're getting kind of close in some of the games they're losing. But I'll say that top 10 pick. I'll say in between 5 and 10.
This one's tough for me. I think that they'll just eventually end up in the top 5. They might win some games, but I think by season's end, I don't trust Eli to stay healthy behind this offensive line. And even if he does, it's easier for me to see them being atrocious week in, week out than being good week in and week out. So, let's move on to the I guess we can talk about the Arizona Cardinals. We can circle back. Do you think that they'll be a top 5?
Absolutely.
Pick?
There's no doubt in my mind.
Okay.
There's so many weak spots on that team that it's like you can count more of their problems than not their problems.
You know, it's interesting because if they're a top 5 pick, let's say that they're the number 1 pick in the draft. If they get the number 1 pick in the draft, was it a mistake to take Rosen when they could have their choice of quarterback this year?
Well, Rosen was touted to be a number 1 overall pick last season in this draft, so I don't think it was the wrong choice to get him because you got to take advantage of him dropping that low. But this next quarterback class, I don't think is as good as this class was this year. So maybe it's if they get the number 1 pick, I think this is a defensive draft for sure, especially with Nick Bosa getting into this, who's definitely a top 5 pick. But I do see them getting a top 5 pick. I'm not sure where, but it will be in the top 5.
Yeah. And then the last team to round this off, the 49ers, we know that they have their starting running back, their starting quarterback, amongst other players on injured reserve. Do you think that they'll finish in the top 5, or in the bottom 5, a top 5 draft pick by season's end?
See, they're losing games close, but they're still losing games. I think they're going to be like, that's a tough one because there's so many injuries on that team, and they're struggling so much. They are playing an undefeated Rams team this Sunday, so I will definitely put them in a potential top 5 pick.
Yeah, I can see them like 5th or 6th, maybe.
Yeah, but it all comes down to the fact of, are they going to continue to compete and lose, or are they just going to...
I mean, probably.
Yeah,
like they did last year before Garoppolo showed up. Like they
absolutely,
lost all those
but
games.
they dropped like 7 spots in that. Do you see them winning only 1 game with CJ Beathard as they did this
I think
season?
they'll win a couple more. The second half of their schedule opens up a little bit, so we'll see. But I could definitely see them with a top 5 pick. I would say... I don't know if they'll get the number 1 pick, but... I mean, who knows? You have a backup quarterback in there, and a young backup quarterback at that, with an offense that's seen a lot of injuries. But yeah, I think that they'll get a top 5 pick. I'll say they'll get the 4th or 5th pick, if I had to guess. But other than that, I think we don't feel very confident in any one of these teams figuring it out.
Yeah, it's really funny because when you look at some of these teams, they should have a bright future ahead of them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So we will definitely see how they do. But we are going to take a short break. When we come back, we are going to talk about some starting quarterbacks that are starting this game we got
to talk about the LA Chargers first.
Are we talking about LA Chargers first?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to go LA Chargers first. Talk about their viability as a team in LA and how worried are the NFL owners during their meetings. We will get right on that right after this.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. We finished talking about the 1-5 teams and if they have a shot to make the playoffs. We said no to all 5 of them. We talked about the Thursday night football matchup between the Arizona Cardinals and the Denver Broncos in Arizona. And now we're moving on to the Los Angeles Chargers because we have some serious things to discuss about them based on they can't get fans in their stadiums and it's only a 27,000-seater.
Yeah, so according to ESPN's Seth Wickersham,
I love that name, by the way.
Sources told him that at the owners' meeting in the last couple days, multiple owners who requested anonymity said that they didn't formally bring up the topic about the LA Chargers, but they are very concerned about the viability of the Chargers in Los Angeles as it relates to their recent move, as they moved from San Diego to LA. They have been playing in the StubHub Center, like you mentioned, which is a very small stadium for football standards, as it seats about 30,000 people maximum, which is about half or less than half of most NFL stadiums. It's tough for them to sell that place out. And as we've seen, Jeff, a lot of away fans fill that place up. We saw the Niners and the Raiders, other teams as well. As we know that LA is a big melting pot city, there's a lot of people that have moved there from different places, so you have lots of fans of all teams that live in LA. But what do you make of their long-term viability?
Well, what I'm saying is they basically play a 16-game away season. You know what I mean by that?
I agree.
They barely
they
have
did when they were in San Diego too.
Not as bad as this. Like this is they have no fans. You rarely see anyone wearing a San Diego or Los Angeles Chargers jersey at all, or any merchandise from that matter.
Those away jerseys really fill up the stadium.
Yeah, it's a serious issue. In the NFL meetings, the owner meetings, they're saying, like, are they viable to be in LA? Should they go back to San Diego? Should they look for a new home? Should they even bother being a co-tenant of the stadium in Inglewood, California, when that's open?
Yeah, and then that's their plan. In 2020, their plan is to be a tenant of the Los Angeles Rams and rent out their stadium.
Which I think is not a smart idea. Well, I understand.
I get it because they're building a huge stadium. Like, it makes sense, but here's my thing with the Chargers. And they have some things that definitely go against them. First off, they had the option to move to Los Angeles before the Raiders did because the NFL knew that if the Chargers stayed in San Diego and if the Raiders moved to LA, that would essentially kill off this Chargers franchise because, let's be honest, the Raiders are the most supported team in Los Angeles and San Diego. Would you agree with that?
It's hard to deny.
The Rams have done their part in attracting new fans because, much in large part because they're good. They play an attractive style of football where, they're throwing the ball a lot. Todd Gurley, a lot of action. They're an exciting team. So it's helped that they've had a product that has been very watchable on the field for the Los Angeles community. But going back to the Chargers, they were never LA's team. LA has always been indebted to the Raiders for whatever reason.
Or the Rams.
Yeah, the Rams too, but
it was mainly a Raiders fan. It was mainly a Raiders city, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. But the Rams were there, made a statement there. The San Diego Chargers, before they were San Diego, were actually the LA Chargers for one season in the 1960s when they were in the AFL. But that was just like a very temporary thing. Now they officially moved there after 55 years, but they didn't really they were not welcomed. They were just like,
it's hard for
really,
me
you're
to
coming over here?
Yeah, it's hard for me to see them doing well in a 60,000 fan stadium. Like if you're already having problems selling tickets and it's mostly away fans of the away team that are buying those tickets, like what's it going to look like when there's twice as many seats? Are they going to be half empty and then the rest of that and the other half of the seats will be 70% away fans?
If you can barely fill a 27,000 seat soccer stadium, why do you think you're going to fit in the most advanced and technologically sound stadium that's ever going to be?
And you know what? I don't think the Raiders moving to Las Vegas helps them either because, a lot of people make that drive from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, especially for a weekend. So Man, it's tough. What do you see the future holding for the Chargers?
I can see them moving back to San Diego, if I'm going to be honest with you. I can see the NFL just making them move back to San Diego just based off of just the issues with the stadium. There's no seating in soccer stadium. They're not getting any attendance. They're averaging they're the lowest average in the NFL, obviously because of their seating, but they're barely fitting that stadium. There's so much issues with this situation when it comes to Los Angeles that they're like the party crashers that no one wanted them to come over. They all had to say, all right, we're gonna go over to hit this guy's house. And we're all gonna chill. Don't tell the Chargers we're going over. And then they hear it and they're like, "What's up, everybody? We're coming too." And everyone's like, "Oh man, party's over, man." That's basically what this is. It's the guy no one wanted to come over that came over.
Mm-hmm. I have a very negative outlook of this situation. I just think that...
Is there a positive outlook in this situation?
I don't think that they're going to move back to San Diego. I don't think they're going to stay in LA. In fact, in my opinion...
They're going to stop being a team?
In my opinion, they'll probably sell the team and somebody will relocate them. That's
out of
I
California?
No. So maybe somewhere like St. Louis.
So out of California entirely?
Yeah, because... LA will be dominated by the Rams.
So the St. Louis Chargers. I guess I can see the name, but I don't see it happening for a while.
LA will be dominated by the Rams, the Raiders, and some 49ers fans.
So you're saying the Spanos family will sell this team?
It's possible.
Even with all this talk, okay.
Because if they were financially competent, then no. But if you're a struggling franchise and you don't have a stadium and you can't make money off of your games, the only option is to relocate. Now, does the Spanos family want to relocate and build a stadium somewhere and pay the relocation fee?
No.
I would say not. But does some investor want to and will give you X amount of money for your franchise? Because we know that NFL franchises are very, very lucrative. We know that people want to buy a franchise, even if it's in a crappy town or the crappy stadium, because
billions of dollars.
The fact that you have the rights to that franchise makes you incredibly valuable, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's going to cost you maybe $1 billion, maybe
probably more than $1 billion. Yeah,
maybe at the cheapest $200 million.
I would say that it would probably cost $2 billion.
The fact of the matter is, there is so much profit in these teams if you buy them and you do the right things with them. Maybe relocate to a city that doesn't have a team and wants a team, maybe like St. Louis,
maybe like Mexico City.
I could see that too, but that's a long shot. Maybe the next 10 years, maybe 15 years from now, I can see a team in Mexico City. I can see a team in London also. I can see them branching out internationally.
What if there's a man or a woman out there who, is obviously very wealthy and they decide, hey, I want to be the first owner to own a team in Mexico City. I think the NFL and the owners would be on board with that. I think that the NFL and the owners would push that along, and I'm not saying they'd force the team to be sold, but I think that they could encourage the team to be sold.
Absolutely. But the main thing about that is Mexico City, or is Mexico in general, they have a diehard fan base. They would have a diehard fan base for sure. But is there more profit? Where would the stadium be?
They probably play at Azteca Stadium, which is in Mexico City, which holds 100,000 people.
But the main thing I'm saying is what are the I don't know the taxes. How the taxes going to go to that? How much money is it going to be to get down there? How are they going to get revenue? There's just so many.
I don't know how it all works, but the idea that they could put a team in a different country in a new market, you would sell clothes, sell merchandise that say Mexico City. It
could work, but there's also other aspects of this we don't really know. So there's a lot of things the owners probably do know that maybe it's not viable or plausible to go to Mexico City. Or we did have a guy try to go to London, and that didn't really pan out at the moment. So there's just a lot of different aspects of this. There's different angles.
Yeah, it would be very interesting. I don't know if Mexico City will be the next franchise.
I could see it, though. I mean, Mexico City it's right next to the United States. It's not that much of a travel compared to London.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not like a big time change. It's the same thing if you're going to a East Coast, West Coast
The Chargers
game.
used to be a San Diego team. it's not like they're a team that doesn't have like a Latino fan base at all. You know what I mean? Like,
but
it would make sense.
The main thing about that is the not only travel, but they'll be in the AFC West. It would make sense because
I mean, it wouldn't be it would be obviously more travel.
It's not like the St. Louis Rams, who are mainly an East Coast area, will play in the West in a West division.
I mean, I don't know if the AFC West would be happy about that.
It's not that much of a travel compared to Los Angeles or San Diego.
I mean, it's what, like a 5-hour flight from Denver to Mexico City? I think that's pretty far.
Yeah, but like the LA, like the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe it's.
I mean, that's pretty much like going cross country, though. Is what I'm saying. Like, it's like if like it would be a travel. Like it would definitely be further. Like if you're Denver, LA is way closer to Mexico City.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think the ownership, like when it comes to like them voting on this, I don't think they'll even put that into a discussion.
No, they probably won't. You're right. I don't disagree with that at all.
Because they're thinking about money, and they're not really thinking about players.
But I also don't think that people realize how far south Mexico City actually is.
It's pretty down there. It's like in the middle, right?
Yeah, no, it's considerably deep into Mexico.
Maybe you can make them like Cancun. I don't know, like somewhere closer to the coast, to the United States border.
That's not going to help.
I'm trying to think about it.
Now, if they move, they'll move to Mexico City. If they move to
they have
Mexico,
to. That's the biggest population. That's the
and there's a stadium there that holds 100,000 people. They're ready to play football. They play football. They're going to play football in 2 weeks in there. Rams and Chiefs,
and they get a bunch of people in that stadium too. It's not just like, oh, there's a football game going on. I guess we can check another. People are like, yes, there's an NFL game here. Let's all go.
One of the most liveliest soccer stadiums in the world. So,
football would be no different. American football would be no different.
Yeah.
But would you call it American football if it moved to another country?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're going to take another break here. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the new quarterbacks that are going to be starting for their teams with other and benching other quarterbacks and other quarterbacks injured.
I would love to talk about that.
Of course you would. And we'll be right on that when we return.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Hello, neighbor. Welcome to Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome to the GSMC.
Aaron Rodgers' neighborhood? It's topical. It's a football podcast.
Welcome to the GSMC football podcast, where I've lost all faith in humanity because someone just ruined Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Anyways, welcome back.
I thought you were talking about like Geronimo Allison, Randall Cobb, and Devontae Adams.
What?
Mr. Aaron Rodgers' neighborhood with his friends. Anyways, you want to talk about quarterbacks other than Aaron Rodgers?
I don't really know anymore. I guess so. Anyways, we'll move on. We've been talking about...
Ooh, I know a quarterback we could talk about.
Don't interrupt me again. I'm trying to recap what we talked about.
Go ahead.
We've talked about the Thursday night football matchup between the Cardinals and the Broncos. We've talked about 1 and 5 teams and which one can make the playoffs. We said none of them. And also, we talked about the Los Angeles Chargers and their predicament in Los Angeles and if they even should be there anymore. But now, we move on and talk about some quarterbacks. Most notably, I believe, is Nathan Peterman, who is no longer the starting quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, since Josh Allen is out for a couple of weeks. They have benched Peterman after another disappointing performance, and now are going to start the veteran Derek Anderson.
Man, let Peterman start. I think he deserves another chance. Don't you?
No. He has one of the highest percentages of throwing a pick out of anyone else in NFL history.
Yeah, but he's still young. Plus, his averages will even out a little bit once he throws a few more passes, not picks, but probably picks too.
Why are you defending him?
Well, I really wanted to see him play quarterback this weekend.
Wait. You have the Colts defense on your fantasy football team, don't you?
Yeah, on a couple teams. Come on, put in Peterman.
Well, Derek Anderson's not that much of a change.
Don't you like it when quarterbacks play 3 flies up every play? It's exciting.
Yeah, when have the defense and you want to win.
So Derek Anderson, will he be a difference maker?
He'll be a manager of the game. All you have to do, Anderson, is not throw a pick.
Yeah, Anderson.
All you have to do is just be in the game and don't mess up.
Just hand the ball to McCoy.
Or just throw some short passes. Just don't be wild with it. Just be cautious and just don't turn the ball over and you'll be fine.
That's a tall
You don't
order.
need to throw for 300 to 400 or even 500 yards in a game. Just get the ball to the main guys and just stay out of the way.
So, do you see Anderson being good enough to lead the Bills to a win over the Indianapolis Colts?
As we talked about, the Indianapolis Colts are 1-5. They are pretty darn bad. This is a chance for the Bills to win a game or be known as the worst team in the NFL.
But they've already won a couple.
Yeah, but I can still consider
If they lose their third string quarterback, would they be the worst team in the NFL?
It's not losing with your backup. It's how your other team performed. How
They beat the Vikings.
Yeah, but many think that's a fluke. And
the Titans.
Again.
Those are flukes for sure.
Yeah. Going into this game, I would not have Nathan Peterman even suited up. I don't know how he's not cut yet.
Yeah, so Sean McDermott, he's going to go with Anderson as he is familiar with him with his time in Carolina. So,
can you blame the man?
Let's talk about a different quarterback, a better quarterback, a quarterback that I'd like to talk about as we are in Brocktober. Brock, the Broctagon Osweiler. Yes, my ladies and gentlemen. My good friend Brock Osweiler, he gets to suit up again for the Miami Dolphins as Ryan Tannehill. He's injured. He will be out. I'm not sure how long he'll be out. Jeff, do you think that he'll be back anytime soon?
Well, he doesn't need surgery.
But he has an AC joint injury, right?
Correct.
That's
it's
kind of what Alex
serious.
Smith had a few years ago.
Yes, but I think he'll be back. I think they're going to take their time with him, but I think he'll be back probably by I'll say week 8.
Well, heck, they'll probably take even more than that take more time than that with him if Brock Osweiler can repeat his performance last week where he lit up the Chicago Bears. How about that, Jeff? The number 1 defense got lit up by
the
Brock
number 1
Osweiler.
defense was actually Jacksonville by last week in yards per game. Now it's actually, I believe it's Baltimore now. In yards
Yes,
per
it
game.
is Baltimore. But
is weird.
a top defense. How about that? How about you didn't see that coming, right? You didn't see Osweiler tearing up Khalil Mack in that
but
defense?
then you look at his 3 starts in 3 different teams. He's beaten the Chicago Bears. So apparently there's some weird voodoo magic when he's playing against Chicago.
So you're saying that his nickname instead of being Broctagon should be Brockago? Osweiler?
You have the worst nicknames for people.
I don't know, man. I think it has a catch to it.
No,
like
it doesn't.
Brockago Osweiler.
Shut it.
All he does is win
it.
in Chicago. We're against Chicago doesn't necessarily have to be.
Make me lose the will to live, man.
Hey, can we just appreciate that Brock Osweiler is still playing football?
Somehow, some way he is.
Who
Who knew? When he got signed by Houston, people were like, "Oh, they might have found the quarterback." Then he plays terrible.
Yeah.
And now I find out he's in Miami, and people probably forgot he was even with Miami before last week.
You remember that Will Smith Miami song? Welcome to Miami. Benvenido, ami. You remember that?
No.
Well, Brock Osweiler was probably stoked when he got a contract offer from Miami. He's like, hey, I can go hold a clipboard and then go to the beach But now he's back as a starter. That's pretty cool. We'll see how long that lasts. If he continues to play well, I think he can do this for a couple more weeks, at least get the start for a couple more weeks. Hey, I wanted to ask you, though, what do you think about Bill Belichick? He was asked a question about Khalil Mack and Lawrence Taylor. As you know, Bill Belichick did coach Lawrence Taylor. Belichick, he kind of scoffed at that idea. He said that, I'm never putting, or not never, but I can't put Khalil Mack in the same class as Lawrence Taylor, because Lawrence Taylor, we're talking about possibly the greatest defensive player of all time. What do you think about that comment? Is there anything there?
Well, it's unfair to compare someone to LT, the original LT, and Lawrence Taylor, maybe the greatest linebacker of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And how aggressive he played and how strong he played and how quick he was and how much, he was just all over the field at all times. Khalil Mack is that way too, but
smaller career so far.
Let's wait until the end of Khalil Mack's career and see how much he's improved, and not only improved, but what he's done in his career.
Lawrence Taylor had 13 seasons and 132 and a half sacks, 9 All-Pros. That's pretty good.
That's hard to live up to. So I'm thinking Khalil Mack's great, no doubt about it, but putting him in that category so early in his career, because his career is still early, all things considered, I would definitely wait a couple more years before I even compare him to a Hall of Famer. I still think Khalil Mack is great, but it's comparing someone to Joe Montana. It's that's just not fair. You can't compare someone to who's arguably the greatest of all time, or comparing someone to Tom Brady. You're putting too much pressure on the guy.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? Are you worried about Mac because he injured his ankle early in that Dolphins game? He still played most of the game, but he was hobbled early on. He's missed a little bit of practice time.
I don't think it's that serious. If it was serious, he would not. He would probably have surgery or something of that nature, or he wouldn't be playing.
5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and 1 interception returned for a touchdown for Khalil Mack on the season.
I think it's more of a nuisance than anything else, that ankle injury. So I think he'll be ready to go by Sunday, but we will see.
I think that the Patriots would be very afraid of him when they play against the Bears.
Everyone should be afraid of him.
But I mean, I would expect them to maybe triple team him at times. I would expect them to go over the top in trying to keep Brady away from Khalil Mack.
Well, we have said this in the past that he is one of the main reasons the Bears have improved so much on defense is because he's a
phenomenal player, right?
Well, he gets aggro by the other team. They watch him more than any other players, and those other players make defensive plays because they're watching Khalil Mack.
Exactly.
So if they keep watching Khalil Mack, someone else has to step up, and the Bears' teammates have stepped up in the past, and they could against New England.
Absolutely. So, anything else you'd like to add for today's football podcast? Because I'm done.
I'm good.
Cool. Join us tomorrow as we predict the weekend's games. Of course,
we do them wrong again and again, like we
have
every week.
I've been doing pretty good. All right.
So
we'll predict the games. We'll talk about the matchups and the players that you need to know as you look into each game that Sunday will bring. So thank you for joining us. Again, if you're into basketball, other sports, we do have those podcasts on the GSMC podcast network, so please check those out. Any sport
you can think of, we probably do and talk about.
But not bowling.
We can talk about bowling on the next sports podcast.
Lacrosse.
We have an all-sports podcast. We can talk about those sports.
We could.
If they're anything special. There probably might be one day. So tune in tomorrow, and we'll talk more about football and those Week 7 matchups on Sunday. We'll see you then.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.